Welcome to the European Association for Higher Education Advancements YouTube and podcast channel.
Oh, wow.
Today, we're diving deep into lean living.
Okay.
And no, we're not talking about crash diets or Spartan lifestyles.
Right.
We're going to break down some expert advice from the EAE SHE on how to make this philosophy work for you,
Yeah,
not against you.
that's right. We're talking about simple, practical shifts that can lead to less stress,
Yeah.
a clearer mind, and more time for the things that you actually want to do.
Okay, before we get too zen,
Sure.
can you give us a quick overview of what lean living actually means?
Absolutely.
Drawing from the EAE SHE article.
At its core,
Yeah.
lean living is about cutting out the excess.
Okay.
And that goes beyond just material possessions.
Right.
It's about looking at your routines, your commitments,
Right.
even your mental clutter,
Yeah.
and asking, what can I streamline?
Okay.
What can I simplify?
Yeah.
What truly adds value to my life?
So it's not about deprivation. It's about being intentional with your time and energy.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of intentionality,
Sure.
one of the first things that jumped out at me in the ETI article was the emphasis on decluttering.
Oh, yeah.
I have to admit, this is an area where I could use some serious help.
Uh-huh.
My just-in-case pile is threatening to take over my entire apartment.
You're not alone.
Really?
And the ECA really hits on the psychology behind this.
Okay.
Clutter isn't just about messy shelves.
Yeah.
It actually creates mental chaos.
Okay.
Our brains crave order. And when we're surrounded by too much stuff,
Right.
it can lead to feelings of overwhelm and anxiety.
So it's not just about aesthetics.
Right.
It's actually impacting our mental well-being.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, the EACA recommends starting with a simple question. Do I really need this?
Yeah.
But honestly, sometimes I feel emotionally attached to even the most random junk.
Sure.
How do you get past that?
That's where methods like the KonMari approach come in. It's not just about decluttering.
Huh.
It's about mindful decision-making.
Okay.
Instead of focusing on what you're getting rid of, you shift your attention to what you want to keep,
Right.
the items that truly spark joy and add value to your life.
It's like reframing the entire process.
Exactly.
And it seems like that mindset shift is crucial
Yeah.
because the EACA also talks about extending the life cycle of our belongings, right?
Exactly.
Whether you're donating to a good cause,
Yeah.
selling items you no longer use,
Right.
or even just giving things away to friends or family,
Uh-huh.
it's about conscious consumption and
Yeah.
making sure your belongings are being used and appreciated.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've tackled physical clutter,
Okay.
but the EACA doesn't stop there.
Right.
They also delve into streamlining our routines and processes.
Yeah.
I know I personally fall into the trap of making things way more complicated than they need to be.
We all do.
Do we?
And one of the things I found fascinating in the article is the connection between efficiency and mental clarity.
Okay.
When we're constantly bogged down by inefficient routines,
Yeah.
it drains our mental energy and leaves us feeling scattered.
It's like a constant low-level stress that we might not even be aware of.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's where the EAG's emphasis on creating systems comes in.
Okay.
It could be as simple as, using a planner to organize your week,
Yeah.
batching similar tasks together,
Right.
or even just setting aside specific times for checking email.
Okay.
So you're not constantly distracted throughout the day.
Okay, so it's not about becoming a robot.
Right.
It's about finding ways to work smarter,
Exactly.
not harder.
Yeah.
You mentioned batching tasks.
Yes.
Any specific examples of that in your own life?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm always looking for ways to optimize my time.
One thing that's been a game changer for me is meal prepping.
Okay.
I set aside a few hours on Sunday
Uh-huh.
to cook up a big batch of grains,
Okay.
veggies,
Yeah.
maybe some protein, and then I portion it out for lunches and dinners throughout the week.
Here's where it gets really interesting
Okay.
because that not only saves you time during the week,
Yeah.
but it probably helps you make healthier choices too, right?
It's exactly it.
Yeah,
And it also saves money. Those takeout costs can really add up.
for sure.
So it's a win-win-win situation.
I love that.
Yeah.
A multifaceted system.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so decluttering,
Okay.
streamlining.
Yeah.
What other lean living principles does the EAE highlight?
Well, this is where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Because they start connecting those personal efficiency practices to a much bigger picture sustainability.
Okay.
They talk about waste reduction as a core component of lean living.
So it's not just about decluttering our homes and routines.
Right.
It's also about decluttering our impact on the planet.
Exactly.
I'm curious, what specific waste reduction strategies does the EAEE recommend?
They cover a lot of ground. From simple things like switching to reusable containers and energy-efficient light bulbs to more in-depth practices like composting
Yeah.
and really understanding your local recycling guidelines.
Yeah.
And what I found really insightful is that they emphasize the why behind these actions.
Okay.
It's not just about following rules.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
about understanding how our everyday choices impact the environment.
That's so important. It's easy to get caught up in the what and forget the why.
Yeah.
Speaking of it, what I found really compelling about the EHEA article is that it doesn't stop at the practical level.
Yeah.
It also dives into the more philosophical side of lean living, prioritizing what truly matters most.
Right. And that's where it becomes less about checklists and more about self-reflection.
Yeah.
They encourage readers to really consider their core values,
Okay.
their passions, the things that give them a sense of purpose,
Yeah.
and then make sure their time and energy are aligned with those priorities.
So it's almost like a personal audit, right?
You're right.
You're taking stock of your life and making sure it reflects what you truly value.
Exactly.
And that can be a powerful process.
Yeah.
The EAEA even suggests a specific exercise.
Yeah.
Take some time to reflect on what truly matters to you. What are your non-negotiables?
Right.
What brings you joy and a sense of fulfillment?
Yeah.
And then critically, what can you let go of to make more space for those things?
Exactly.
It's like giving yourself permission to say no to the things that drain you and yes to the things that light you up.
Yeah.
I'm curious, have you ever gone through a similar process of realigning your own life?
Oh, absolutely.
What happened?
A few years ago,
Yeah.
I realized I was saying yes to way too many commitments
Uh-huh.
that didn't align with my values or goals.
Right.
It was leading to burnout
Yeah.
and a general sense of dissatisfaction.
I see.
So I started making some pretty significant changes.
What kind of changes? I'm
Yeah.
always fascinated by how people actually put these principles into practice.
Well, for one, I started being much more intentional about my time.
Okay.
I blocked off time for the things that were truly important to me, like
Yeah.
writing, spending time with loved ones, and getting outdoors.
Yeah.
And I started saying no to anything that didn't fit into those categories.
Wow.
It was tough at first,
I bet.
but it made a huge difference in my overall well-being.
That's great.
I felt more focused,
Mm.
more energized,
Yeah.
and more aligned with my true self.
That's amazing. So you're living proof that this stuff actually works.
That's right.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
From decluttering and streamlining
Yeah.
to waste reduction and prioritizing our values.
Right.
What I'm really struck by is how the EAE manages to connect all of these seemingly disparate aspects of life
Yeah.
under the umbrella of lean living.
Right. And that's what makes it so compelling. It's not just about one specific area of your life.
Uh-huh.
It's a holistic approach to creating a life that is intentional,
Right.
efficient,
Yeah.
and aligned with your deepest values.
And that's something we can all strive for no matter what our individual goals or circumstances may be.
Absolutely.
So to wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you had to distill the essence of lean living into one key takeaway,
Okay.
what would it be?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think it boils down to this.
Okay.
Lean living is about making conscious choices that eliminate waste
Yeah.
and maximize value
Right.
in every aspect of your life.
Okay.
It's about streamlining your possessions, your routines, your
Right.
time, and even your mental energy.
Right.
So you can focus on what truly matters most.
That's a fantastic way to put it.
Thanks.
And it really highlights how lean living can be tailored to each individual's unique needs and priorities.
Uh-huh.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you and
Exactly.
creating a life that reflects your authentic self.
Exactly.
Okay, stay tuned because in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to delve into some specific strategies and actionable tips from the EAEA article
Yeah.
that can help you implement these lean living principles in your own life.
Right. We'll explore some practical tools and techniques that you can start using today
Okay.
to declutter, streamline,
Yeah.
and prioritize your way to a more fulfilling life.
I can't wait to get into it.
Me neither. So let's dive into those practical strategies.
Sounds good to me. I'm ready to get tactical.
Well, one of the first things the EAA emphasizes is the power of visualization.
Visualization, like vision boards and stuff. I thought this was about lean living, not manifesting our dream lives.
That's a common misconception. The EAA isn't talking about mystical manifestation. Here, visualization is about clarity, getting a clear picture of what you want your life to look like once you've implemented these principles.
Okay, that makes more sense. So instead of just vaguely wanting a less cluttered life, you'd actually create a visual representation of what that would look like in reality.
Precisely. It could be a mood board with images of organized spaces, streamlined routines, or even just a list of keywords that represent your ideal lean lifestyle.
So it's about setting a clear intention and then using that visual reminder to stay motivated.
Exactly. And once you have that vision in place, the EAE provides a framework for moving forward. They break down lean living into 4 key areas: streamline, declutter, automate, and eliminate.
Okay, let's unpack those one by one. Starting with streamline, what does that look like in practice?
Streamlining is all about optimizing your routines and processes. The EAA recommends identifying those areas where you're wasting time or energy, and then finding ways to simplify them.
Can you give us a concrete example? I'm a very visual learner.
Sure, let's say you're constantly feeling overwhelmed by your email inbox. The EAAEA suggests implementing a system where you only check your email at specific times during the day, rather than constantly interrupting your workflow to respond to every notification.
So it's about creating boundaries and regaining control over your time.
Exactly. And another powerful streamlining technique they recommend is time boxing.
Time boxing, what's that?
It's a time management technique where you allocate a specific amount of time to a particular task and then commit to working on that task exclusively within that time frame.
So instead of just vaguely saying, I'm going to work on this project today, you'd actually block out, say, 2 hours in your calendar and dedicate that time solely to that project.
Exactly. It helps you stay focused, avoid distractions, and actually make progress on your goals.
I can see how that would be really helpful, especially for those of us who tend to get easily sidetracked. Okay, so we streamlined our routines. What's next?
Next up is declutter, and we've already touched on this a bit earlier. It's about getting rid of anything that's not adding value to your life, whether it's physical possessions, digital clutter, or even mental and emotional baggage.
And the EAEEA emphasizes that this isn't just about throwing things away, right? It's about finding new homes for those belongings, whether it's through donating, selling, or gifting.
Precisely. And they also provide some helpful tips for actually making the decluttering process easier. For example, they recommend starting small, maybe just one drawer or one corner of a room, rather than trying to tackle your entire house at once.
That's a great tip because I know I often get overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the task and end up doing nothing at all. Okay, what about automate? That sounds intriguing.
Automating is all about finding ways to make your life run more smoothly without requiring constant effort from you. The EEEA highlights the power of technology in this regard, using apps and online tools to manage your finances, schedule appointments, or even order groceries.
So it's about leveraging technology to free up your time and mental energy.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Even simple things like setting up automatic bill pay or using a meal planning app can make a big difference.
I'm all about simplifying life. So streamline, declutter, automate. We've covered 3 out of 4. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
The final step is eliminate. And this is where lean living gets really radical because it's about identifying those activities, commitments, or even relationships that are draining your energy and preventing you from living your best life.
So it's not just about decluttering your physical space or your schedule. It's about decluttering your entire life.
Exactly. It's about taking a hard look at how you're spending your time and energy and making conscious choices to eliminate anything that's not serving you.
That can be tough because sometimes we feel obligated to say yes to things even when we don't really want to.
Absolutely. And that's why the EAEA emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries and prioritizing your own well-being. They recommend practicing saying no gracefully and learning to delegate tasks whenever possible.
It's about recognizing that your time and energy are valuable resources and choosing to invest them wisely.
Precisely. And this leads us to another key principle that the EAHEA highlights: mindfulness.
Mindfulness. So we're bringing meditation into the mix now.
Not necessarily. Although mindfulness practices like meditation can certainly be helpful. Here, the EAT is talking about being present and intentional in your everyday life, paying attention to your thoughts, feelings, and actions, and making conscious choices that align with your values.
So it's about being aware of the why behind your actions rather than just going through the motions.
Exactly. And they provide some practical tips for cultivating mindfulness in your daily routine. For example, they recommend taking a few minutes each morning to set an intention for the day, or practicing gratitude by writing down 3 things you're grateful for.
I love that. It's about shifting your focus from what you're lacking to what you already have.
Precisely. And they also emphasize the importance of being mindful of your consumption habits, being aware of what you're buying, eating, and using, and making conscious choices to reduce your impact on the environment.
So it's about aligning your actions with your values, both in terms of personal well-being and sustainability.
Exactly. And this brings us to the final piece of the lean living puzzle: continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement. So it's not a one-time fix, it's an ongoing process.
Exactly. The EAA stresses that lean living isn't about achieving some kind of perfect state of minimalism or efficiency. It's about constantly evaluating your habits, routines, and systems and looking for ways to make them better.
So it's about embracing a growth mindset
Yeah.
and always being open to learning and evolving.
Precisely. They recommend setting aside time regularly to reflect on your progress, identify areas where you can improve and experiment with new strategies.
I love that. It's about making lean living a sustainable practice rather than just a temporary phase.
Exactly. And they encourage readers to be patient with themselves because real change takes time and effort.
That's so important because it's easy to get discouraged when you don't see results immediately.
Yeah.
But like any worthwhile journey, lean living is about taking small, consistent steps in the right direction.
Absolutely. And as you continue to streamline, declutter, automate, and eliminate, you'll start to experience the transformative benefits of a leaner, more fulfilling life.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I have a much clearer understanding of what lean living actually entails. Well said.
Okay.
Okay, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I'd love to hear from you, our listeners. What aspect of lean living resonates most with you? What challenges have you faced in implementing these principles? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Hmm.
So we've talked about the what and the why of lean living,
Right.
drawing some great insights from the EAKA.
Yeah.
But now I'm really curious to hear more about the how.
Okay.
What are some tangible steps our listeners can take
Yeah.
to put these principles into action?
That's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Hmm.
Well, the EAEA offers some really practical advice.
Yep.
And it all starts with a mindset shift.
Uh,
They encourage people to embrace what they call the Kaizen approach.
Kaizen.
Yeah.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory.
It's a Japanese philosophy
Okay.
that focuses on continuous improvement through small incremental changes.
Okay.
The idea is that even tiny adjustments
Mhm.
made consistently over time
Yeah.
can lead to significant results.
So instead of trying to overhaul your entire life overnight,
Right.
you focus on making small,
Yeah.
manageable tweaks to your habits and routines.
Exactly. And the EAEA suggests starting with one specific area
Okay.
that resonates with you.
Okay.
Maybe it's decluttering your workspace,
Yeah.
streamlining your morning routine,
Yeah.
or finding ways to reduce food waste in your kitchen.
I like that.
Yeah.
It feels less daunting than trying to tackle everything at once.
Right?
So pick your battle.
Yeah.
Start small
Uh-huh.
and build momentum from there.
Yeah.
What other practical tips does the EAA offer?
Well, they talk a lot about the importance of setting clear goals
Okay.
and creating systems to support those goals.
Uh,
For example, let's say you want to declutter your wardrobe.
okay.
Instead of just randomly pulling things out of your closet,
Yeah.
they recommend setting a specific goal.
Okay.
Maybe it's reducing your wardrobe by 25%,
Okay.
and then creating a system for sorting through your clothes and deciding what to keep, donate, or sell.
So it's about being strategic and intentional rather than just going through the motions. What about streamlining?
Sure.
Any specific tools or techniques that the EAKA recommends?
They highlight the power of automation,
Okay.
using technology to simplify tasks and free up your time and mental energy.
Okay.
For instance, they suggest setting up automatic bill pay,
Right.
utilizing online grocery delivery services,
Yeah.
and exploring apps that help you manage your schedule and to-do lists.
Those are great suggestions. And it seems like there's an app for just about everything these days.
There really is.
Okay, what about waste reduction?
Okay.
What are some simple, everyday actions that listeners can take to make the difference?
The EAA emphasizes the importance of being mindful of our consumption habits.
Okay.
They recommend things like switching to reusable water bottles and coffee cups,
Uh-huh.
using reusable shopping bags,
Yeah.
and opting for products with minimal packaging. They also encourage people to educate themselves about their local recycling guidelines
Right.
and to compost food scraps whenever possible.
Those are all great tips, and they really highlight how small changes can add up to make a big impact.
For sure.
But let's be honest. Sometimes life gets in the way,
Yeah.
and it's easy to slip back into old habits.
It happens.
What does the EAA say about staying motivated and overcoming those inevitable setbacks.
They stress the importance of self-compassion
Yeah.
and the fact that no one is perfect.
Right.
It's okay to have off days or to make mistakes.
Yeah.
The key is to view those setbacks as learning opportunities
Yeah.
and to keep moving forward.
Okay.
They also recommend finding ways to make lean living enjoyable and rewarding
Yeah.
rather than viewing it as a chore.
That's so important. It shouldn't feel like a punishment.
Exactly. And one way to make it more enjoyable
What?
is to focus on the positive aspects.
Right.
Instead of dwelling on what you're giving up,
Uh-huh.
celebrate the benefits you're gaining. More time, less stress,
Okay.
a clearer mind,
Yeah.
a more sustainable lifestyle.
It's about reframing the narrative
Yeah,
and focusing on the abundance rather than the scarcity.
precisely. And the EAEA also encourages people to connect with others who are on a similar journey.
Okay.
Whether it's joining an online community,
Oh,
attending
right.
a workshop,
Yeah.
or simply sharing your experiences with friends and family.
Yeah.
Having a support system can make a big difference.
It's about building a community of like-minded individuals
Mhm.
who can inspire and motivate each other.
Exactly. And ultimately, that's what lean living is all about.
What is it about?
Creating a life that is not only more efficient and sustainable,
Right.
but also more meaningful and fulfilling.
This has been such an enlightening deep dive. We've explored the principles of lean living,
Yeah.
delved into practical strategies, and even touched on the philosophical underpinnings of this approach. What's your final takeaway for our listeners?
If there's one thing I hope people take away from this deep dive, it's that lean living isn't about deprivation.
Okay.
It's about empowerment. It's about making conscious choices that align with your values
Right.
and create a life that is truly your own.
Beautifully said. And remember, you don't have to do it all at once.
That's right.
Start small, be consistent,
Uh-huh.
and enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Please don't forget to follow the European Association for Higher Education Advancement on YouTube and social media